2 years ago, we lost 317 miles of trails. And right now, they're reopening that travel management decision that they passed in 2023 to reconsider reopening trails in Moab. Utah has lost 4,000 miles of trails in 47 years. In the last 2 years, we lost 2,128 miles. We've learned that the government can screw with your optimism, but
Yeah, that's a
hopeful,
true story, though. Yeah.
if you're hopeful, it means you're doing something to make it happen.
Once in a while, you just kind of want to get out there by yourself, or you want to get out there with a small group of people and just kind of have a good time and not have the pressure of being in a campground.
Hey, this is Ben Burr from the Blue Ribbon Coalition, and you are listening to the Trailhead Podcast.
Let it up, let it roar, I feel the ground shake. Pedal down, dust flying, no time to waste. The trailhead's calling, engine power on a roll. This is where trails start and stories unfold. Under starlit skies, where the wild things roam. Every trail a journey, every Jeep a home. Meet me at the trailhead, where the wild ones run. The dust kicks high and the day's not done. The road wide open and the dirt in our soul. This is where trails start and our stories unfold.
Welcome back to the Trailhead, everybody. You don't need a super built rig or a fat wallet to hang out, just heart hustle and the lowest tire pressure you can manage. And tonight we have Loren back. Loren Campbell from UPLA. How you doing, sir?
Hey, very good. It was good seeing you last week.
I was about to say, like, I every time we've talked as of late, I feel like it's always remote, and then I finally got to see you in person multiple times in this particular event, so I feel good about that. Next time we actually have to go wheeling at the same time.
There you go.
If you still wheel out there when you're out there, do you get any time to wheel at those events?
I only went out on Saturday. I just found out when I go out, especially if I have to be back at 3:00 and ready to go, it's just too stressful.
Yeah.
And I just, I've got volunteers that show up, and sometimes they're trained. Sometimes I need to hold their hand for the first half hour. And, I want to make sure that if somebody comes in the first half hour, they get all the correct information. So, and here I don't have to really wrestle with it too much because I can go out today. So
Fair
it's
enough.
not like I'm
That's
going
fair.
to miss a whole lot other than being out with a big group of people. So
And
it was fun. But we did Plan B on Saturday and had a great.
Very nice. Okay. Really cool. I did John's Trail on Monday because that's when I had time, and I was it's kind of at the edge of my comfort level, and man, was it fun. I barely got up it, but man, was it fun. Yeah. I mean, I'm driving a 2-door out there, dude. Like, I shouldn't be doing stuff I was doing, so that's all right. I only left a little bit of tread on the sand. Only a little bit. All right. Well, we talked. No, go ahead.
Yeah, there's something for everyone there. There's something for everyone at Sand Mountain.
It's a true story, though. Even when it bites you, which if you want to understand that reference, you're going to have to watch other episodes of the show, if I'm being honest. But even if it bites you, it's still, there's a lot of fun to be had out there in different capacities. So I did do the shoot while I was out there. That was a lot of fun.
Cool.
It took me 5 attempts to get up it, but I made it. Yeah.
It's more mental than skill. If you commit and you're on the right line, it's pretty easy. You'll find that out the next time you do it.
No, I got it now. Like, now I'm good. Like, I figured it out. Like, I had a good spotter. He helped me through it. And what he told me beforehand, he's just like, you got to do the dual pedal, right? You got to hit the brake and then power out of the brake. And that way you don't slow down, because two things happen. You kind of, your back tire drops into this hole, and you naturally kind of slow down that way, but you really got to keep pushing the power through just to get that little bit of a bump, and then you're through, especially if you got a 2-door. If you're in a 2-door, it's a little bit trickier because, as we've talked many times on the show, Sand Hollow was built for the 4 doors and the buggies. When you go out there, the 2 doors, man, we're playing with fire. We know it.
The one thing that I always tell people when I'm guiding people, especially when people that are having difficulty on a particular obstacle, what I constantly see is that they're looking down at the obstacle, and
Mm,
your eye your Jeep will follow where your eyes are pointed. And if you're looking down at the
yeah,
hole, you're going to stop at the hole. And all I tell people is to just pick a point 8-10 feet in front of them, maybe the spotter, and aim for the spotter. So pick your line.
yeah,
If you've got a spotter that's spotting you, you don't have to worry about the spot, and just
yep,
drive and
yeah,
aim for the top of the mountain, and
yeah,
almost every time I've seen people that have struggled on a particular obstacle, and they get stuck in that same little hole that, they just can't quite get over. Oh, go give it a strap. Well, we don't need a strap. Just back up 6
yeah,
inches and change your focus. You don't want to stop
yeah,
at the hole, you want to stop up there. And it almost
yeah.
always works. It's pretty simple, and, and they never
It's
forget.
that's something they That's something they teach when you learn how to ride a motorcycle, at least if you're actually taught how to ride a motorcycle, is that you're going to go where your eye travels, which is also part of the reason I don't really ride a motorcycle anymore, because I live in Colorado and I legitimately fear I would just start staring at the mountains and drive off the highway. Um,
Yeah,
but the same, it does that principle applies to just about everything, whether it's
it
a
does.
motorcycle or a bicycle or a 4x4 or an OHV, whatever it is you're driving. That's a great point. I love that, Lauren, and it's really
Yeah.
something people
I
need to
had,
take home.
I used to fly airplanes, and I did the same thing in the airplane. And,
Okay.
when I would look down to the right at the lower right on the instrument panel, the plane would veer to the right, every time, unless the autopilot was on.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well,
But
and I'm sure for everybody with you, they appreciate the autopilot.
yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, wanted to get you
So
back on
that
the show
leads
because
it that
we
leads into that's a good segue, because,
see.
you always have to look at where you wanna be. And, we've been talking for years about trying to get trails back, and
Yeah.
we n but really our true focus was stopping losing so many. And now
Hmm.
we've got an opportunity with this Moab reopening consideration. We've actually got a chance to start recovering trails that we've lost. And
Right.
that's a sea change in what we've been going through for the last couple years. I did a
Yeah. Well, I mean,
chart, uh a couple months ago for a presentation I did, and I laid out, um, Utah has lost 4,000 miles of trails in 47 years. In the last 2 years, we lost 2,128 miles. So, and when you look at this chart, because I put it on a chart, and it just, is going on like this, and then all of a sudden, it shot off. So that
yeah,
2,100 miles, that was an extreme overreaction by an administration that was ultra conservative, and, um, it's it's got to swing back. So now's our
yeah,
day in the sun, and we have an opportunity to get these things back. And Moab is the first
yeah,
opening on that. So I think it's really good. We all need to aim our sights towards what we want to get back, what we want to
yeah.
achieve, and not what we've lost. And I think that's
100%.
an important distinction with where we're at.
Yeah, I think when we go through these kinds of situations, and I know for me personally, and I've talked about it on the show before, is that when I got really into off-roading, like we were in the middle of loss after loss after loss after loss. And for the longest time in every state, especially out west, every state, it's been, we've got to stop the bleeding. All right. That's the first thing to do, is just stop the bleeding. Let's get it to a place where we're not losing miles and miles of trails, every season, every day, every month, whatever it is, right? And I think both of us can say, I've seen that tide start to change here a little bit in Colorado. Obviously, because of things like Blue Ribbon Coalition's efforts and efforts like you guys are doing with UPLA and all of the things and getting out on shows like our little show and stuff like that, like getting the message out there, the community has really started to coalesce, and it's really resulted in what's going on now in Moab. Give me a quick, and our audience, kind of a quick background of where we stand today with the Moab stuff, because we talked about it before. So, and I will link to the previous show where we talked about the actual closures, so you don't have to go through all that stuff all over again. But for where are we at today? Like, what brings us to the point where you and I decided we needed to talk about this?
Good point. So, 2 years ago, we lost 317 miles of trails. And right now, we've got BLM has reintroduced, they're reopening that travel management decision that they passed in 2023 to reconsider reopening trails in Moab. And they have prepared a list of trails. I think there's 129 trails or routes that are on their reconsideration list, but that list is not exclusive. If there's other routes that people want to see reopened, they can request those be reopened. If they make a convincing argument, this would be the opportunity to get them back. Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. So everything that you see in green are trails that are on the list, and it's a little bit difficult to, yeah, there you go, you see a lot more of them now. So they're the trails northwest of Moab. The red or the pink trails are actually the trails that they are considering doing seasonal closures on. Right now they're closed, and if the pink ones are going to be seasonal closures. So I mean, those may have legitimate circumstances for closures. They may be things like bighorn sheep lambing seasons, or nesting
Mhm.
seasons for raptors, or something like that. But they're going to do it the way that it should have been done originally. It should have been shut off during that critical season for the habitat, and then open the rest of the
Right.
year. That's what they're
Yeah.
considering on the pink ones. And then all the black
Okay.
ones, which there's a lot of
Yes.
black on that. Those black ones are ones that they're going to consider. Right now, they're single track trails, and they're going to open those to
Okay.
50-inch or ATVs. So these are
Oh,
all the
okay.
things that they're looking at. So it's kind of getting
Yeah.
something for everybody. And
Yeah.
um, the thing I think it's important for people to understand is this is just an opportunity at this point. There's been no decision made. And if we don't get
Right.
comments made that present a convincing argument as to why these trails should be reopened, they may not reopen them. And
Yeah.
this will also affect us on other travel management areas we're expecting them to review in the coming months. So
Yeah.
it's really, really
Do
important.
Yeah, and to that point real quick, and we'll talk about the comments in just a second, but do we know what kind of prompted them to reopen this particular travel management plan or to revisit these particular trails? Is it just pressure from the BRC? Is it just pressure from UPLA? Is it just pressure from community groups? Is it all of the above?
It's all of the above. It's all of the above.
Awesome.
I would have to say that in Utah, BRC, Blue Ribbon Coalition, and the state of Utah were probably the dominant features. But there were other
Mm,
entities that sued in that. Colorado off highway trail defenders, they were involved in the lawsuit. The Trying to think who else. Ride with Respect, dirt bike group,
mm,
uh, very respected group. They were involved in a lawsuit. So it's all of the above that convinced them. And, one thing that Blue Ribbon and UPLA went in jointly, Blue Ribbon has had a lobbyist in DC for quite some time, but we
mhm.
joined that with that lobbyist. So now UPLA also has a representative in Washington, D.C. that can knock on the doors of BLM and Forest Service and houses, members of Congress to try and get some of these changes made in a lasting manner. So I think, and we've got some things that are coming to fruition that I think will really help us um, in BLM, Forest Service with the rescinding the roadless rule, I think will be good. I think the land conservation rule or public land health rule, whatever they call it today, um, I think that's going to be a part of history, which is great. So
Okay.
we're making things on both the administrative side at the top levels. We're making them at the
Yeah.
local levels, which is the BLM office, field office in Moab, at the state level in Utah, and then in Congress. So it takes
Right.
all of them. And I don't want to leave out all the comments and letters and um, calls that users have submitted, because that that creates a tremendous groundswell. And there's 300,000 registered OHV users vehicles in Utah. That's a lot of vehicles. That's a lot of votes.
That's just in Utah.
That's just in Utah. And then
Right.
it's estimated that's Utah residents. So you add another $50,000 in OHV permits from out of state. You add all the 4x4 street legal vehicles that aren't included in that number, all the Jeeps, Toyotas, all those vehicles, those are not included in that 300,000. Those are strictly
Yeah.
OHVs. So it's a big number, and they recognize that. So I think getting everybody to come together and act together as with one loud voice makes a difference, and I think that's what's created the movement.
I mean, that's
And and,
and that's
and I will
a great point,
and I will
because go ahead.
yeah, I will say this is just the beginning. This is the opening act. They closed
Yeah.
661 miles in the San Rafael Swell, and they closed 551 miles last year, right? All in December of 2024. You know what happened then? They closed all these trails right at the very end of the year in the Henry Mountains. So those are going to be the acts that are going to follow the Moab. So once we get this comment period closed, and we think that this won't be a long drawn out decision. Our
Okay.
anticipation is that with the new NEPA rules that they passed, they're going to be able to make a
Oh
decision in
yeah.
a few weeks. So
And
our hope is,
the new NEPA, real quick, the new NEPA rules, that's what it's 2 weeks, if
yeah,
or something along
14
those
days
lines.
is
They
the
have to have that
standard
completed.
comment period. Yeah,
Okay.
and I guess that's kind of noteworthy too, because they did give us 30 days on this one, which is kind of
Yes.
outside of the norm. So they gave us some extra help on that. But BLM also has some criteria on how long they can take to make a decision after they get all the comments back. So that's why we think it's going to
Right.
be expedited. It's going to be compressed. So our hope is
Yeah. No,
we'll
I
have
was
trails
talking about
reopened
the
in-
NEPA process being shortened. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So our hope is we'll
Okay.
have trails reopened before Christmas, which would be a great Christmas present.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. That would be an amazing Christmas present. That would be awesome. Yeah, like and
But it
I think
requires
that's
everybody to get involved.
and that's and you and I have talked about that before, and I know some of you out there listening are going to think we're preaching to you, but despite some of the things that say they have to consider all comments now, and there's some changes to kind of some of those rules about how they accept and what kind of comments they accept, because it used to be like if you didn't have a substantive comment at all, then they could just disregard everything you said and your opinion as a whole. That doesn't apply anymore. Now, if you have an opinion, they have to include it as part of the whole, even if they don't feel it's substantive and you don't have enough trail numbers or whatever it is specifically. Now, that said, to Loren's point, there's the list of these trails that we kind of showed a little bit earlier, right? And then I'll provide links to all that stuff in the show notes. There's a list of trails that they are considering reopening, but that's not the only ones that they are considering reopening. They are considering taking other trail submissions for that stuff as well. And that's where all those comments come in at. It's much more likely they're going to open up a trail that you make a comment on, as opposed to you just saying, go open all of the miles that you guys closed in Moab last year. Right.
Precisely. Yeah. And, there are some significant trails that are not on that proposed list. For example, 10 Mile Wash is not on the list. So, a
Really?
lot of
Okay.
people wanted 10 Mile Wash to be reopened, and it's not on the list, but we definitely need comments on 10 Mile Wash because this is our shot. This is our best shot um to get this to happen. And it kind of sets the
Yeah.
stage for those other two actions. And then we got the
Yeah.
national monuments coming after that. So it's an
There you
exciting
go.
time because
It is.
I don't want to say we're optimistic, but we're very hopeful. We've
Yes.
learned that the
Wait,
government can
the
screw with
tide's
your
moving in the
optimism,
right direction.
but
Yeah, that's a true
hopeful,
story though. Yeah.
you know, if you're hopeful, it means you're doing something to make it happen. If you're optimistic, you're just
Yep.
waiting for it to happen. And now we're making things
Ooh.
happen. So it's an encouraging time.
I like it a lot. All right. So, what kind of substantive comments, or what should people be including in their substantive comments about Moab in particular? Obviously, trail names. Do they have the opportunity to drop in pictures and stuff if they want to, and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so let me talk about what we did on our website today because we just launched a new page on our website that is really, really going to help people make good comments. Um, One thing we did is that, the map you showed earlier, when you click on the individual routes, it shows you a BLM route number. Well, a lot of people don't know what a BLM route number is, and they don't know if they've ever been on it. So what we did today is we cross-reference the BLM route numbers with the common names for those routes. So
Mm.
most of the substantial routes have common names associated, like 10 Mile Wash. And we did a cross reference on that so that now people can look at our list and they can see all 129 routes, all the ones with common names. The other thing that, yeah, so there you go. So if you
Yeah.
see there, we've got the route ID in the left column and then the common name in the right. And then we added into it what the decision was in 2023. And over to the right a little bit more, you'll see the comments. So um, those are BLM's comments. We looked at this in 2023 for some errors that they made. So the notes of errors are in that next column. So it's just a whole lot of information.
Yeah, totally. This is a lot. If you're a data nerd, guys, check this stuff out. It's listed. I will link to this post, but it is essentially a post where Upload's got everything linked here, and that's at the top of your guys' list of stuff now. Is this route numbers with common names, and it's a good call because that's usually what people go by. And I mean, I'm a nerd, so I know all the route numbers and names, or they go along with the names, but not everybody does.
Yeah. And some of those routes are really short. They don't have common names, but they were useful routes because they led to like overlooks or dispersed camping areas that were on the edge of a
Or they
rim that
connected
those
something.
are
Yeah.
those may have sentimental value to the people. That may be where they camped with their family for the last 10 years. And
Yeah.
those kind of comments are really good to be able to put in people's comments is what kind of emotional connection do you have to that individual route? Um,
Yes.
and you ask a good question. I believe that a picture can tell a story of 1,000 words. And if you have pictures, you can either submit pictures with your comments on the BLM e-planning website, or you cannot do it through Blue Ribbon's tool. For most people, if they're just writing comments, I would say Blue Ribbon's tool, and there's a link to it on that same page, is probably the best way to submit comments because the other thing is it lets Blue Ribbon know what you're saying. So they have a record of
Hmm.
what you're telling them rather than having to
Yep.
wait until months after to get the administrative record. So,
Yeah.
there's
Well,
some
and
good things there.
we live in a fast-paced environment, right? We live in a much faster-paced environment, and so, and the problem is that when you submit, it's don't get either of us wrong here. It does as long as you submit a comment, that's the important piece. But
Absolutely.
submitting it through organizations like Blue Ribbon Coalition gives them an opportunity to gate that data a little bit so that they know, JD logged in and he submitted a comment on the 9th of October, 2025. And here's that comment. And we can show it to our congressperson today. We don't have to wait
Exactly.
until for 60 days while we wait for whatever Freedom of Information Act we got or Public Records Act to open up. We have that information at our fingertips so that we can act on it because like you said, we hope to have this. If you hope to have this stuff open by Christmas, that means this information has to flow quickly and it has to flow
Yeah.
around to other people
Yeah.
quickly.
And that's what it seems that the administration is geared to do now. So
That's good. Yeah.
we
And
need to take advantage of it.
I'm going to make a comment real quick on something you said real fast. And I'm going to share this real quick because I've been a proponent of talking about the small trails, the quarter-mile trails, the half-mile trails. Everybody knows the big numbers. Everybody's seen the big ones that they've done out there. But I've always been a fan of making sure you get the little guys, right? And I went out here to this one. This guy's 1.25 miles. It used to be 1.5 miles or 1.75 miles. And they closed it. And it used to go out to a great overlook out here. You can't go any further. It just kind of ends out in the middle of nowhere. But I mapped what was left of it because I'm like, I don't want to see more of it cut back. And a lot of these trails are the same way. This guy here is completely closed. This line that I'm pointing at here, this guy's completely closed right now. There's a beautiful camping spot here right off of this. And for those of you who are just listening, I'm actually looking at Spring Canyon Point, which is kind of above 10 Mile. Am I right? Am I correct in that? I think that's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this spot right here, this is an amazing camping spot, Loren. Like ridiculous. It's closed now. It's closed under those rules. And it's those kinds of things. It's all those little short spurs and stuff like that have numbers. They had numbers, and there's a reason they had numbers because people used them at one time. And I'll be the first person to admit there was a trail I ran out to in that area on that day, on the same day I mapped those trails for Trails Off Road. And the only way I knew the trail was there was because I had a GPS and I had a track of where the trail was supposed to be. But the problem was that Spring Canyon Point had been plowed so many times to grade it, and there was no markings to show where the trail was. People didn't know that it was a trail that connected to the other side of the canyon. And I started to get out there, and I had to turn around after a little bit, but I was just like, this is an example of what happens because we don't have enough, like, we don't have people out there using that stuff and using those little side trails and using that stuff to keep it open because obviously the management agencies aren't doing it.
Yeah.
But good. All right.
And
Sorry, I wanted to get off on a small tangent there. Even the little ones count.
I think you mentioned something that's really important is on these dispersed campsites, and this is kind of the unsung critical failure of the last travel management plan. There were 120 dispersed campsites closed as a result of the road closures. 120 campsites gone.
Yeah.
And these are remote campsites that are usually in beautiful areas. They're not the improved campsites where you're right next to another rig that you don't know who they are. It's
You got to listen to their generator all night. Yeah.
They all like to do. So, and make sure you mention that if there's a campsite on one of these trails that you've used or of, make sure you mention that in your comments because that's really important.
Yeah.
Those don't show on the current map.
100%. And even if you just like remote camping where you don't have to be piled next to your neighbor because these are supposed to be our public lands, right? These are supposed to be our areas where we can spread out a little bit and we don't have to be on our neighbor like we are in every subdivision in every corner of America at this point. This is an opportunity for us to get out there and get away from folks a little bit. And yeah, I want to hang out with everybody. I enjoyed hanging out with you, Loren, and I'd love camping with you once, but every once in a while you just kind of want to get out there by yourself, or you want to get out there with a small group of people and just kind of have a good time and not have the pressure of being in a campground that's got all kinds of downfalls. I don't need to explain to all y'all what those downfalls can be, but Yeah. So camping was a huge thing. I know Ben talked about it a little bit. I remember he shared a story, I think, about the swell where he'd roll up on somebody who he's just like, this campsite's going to get closed. And they're like, no, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, well, and they're like, well, we're just hiking. I'm like, not anymore. You're not. So yeah, it's fun stuff, man. All right. Well, how long is this comment period open for? Till October 24th.
24th. So we got
Okay.
about 2 weeks roughly.
Yep, this is going to go up. I'm aiming to get this up tomorrow on 10/10, so this should about 2 weeks. So you guys will have 2 weeks to kind of get more comments in there, and then we'll push some stuff off this clip as well. But just want to get it in there and get those routes in there. I'm going to be dropping some comments in about some of the stuff that I saw when I went out there, and some of the stuff that I explored before it was closed. And I encourage all of you to do the same. Comment at all if you wheel in the area, period. That's just hands down. If you wheel in the area, if you wheel in Moab, make a comment. Let them know this is an area I like to go. This is an area I like to explore. I like being able to go off on these little side trails and tangents and weird connectors that get me from point A to point B, because not everybody goes there, and they're roads that have existed for so long, and someone needs to go check them out. But even better if you're familiar with the area, whether you've traveled to it in the past or you live there and you're local, make sure you reference specific places that you go, and specific places that you want to see reopen, that you want to have the most access to. I would love, and I'm sure Loren will love to hear this one, if you've had a story since these closures where you found places overcrowded because you couldn't get to them. And I'm talking about these primitive sites, right? Areas where you used to be able to go easily find a camp spot, but now you can't because 120 dispersed campsites were just closed with no follow-up. And then, of course, we don't really need to talk. Do we need to talk about them coming back and saying, well, we're just going to open up a campground down here then, and that's going to be paid? Is that good? That works, right? Which was the goal in the first place.
Some, but there is one other thing I think we should touch on. Can you go back to our website page and click on that third link? Because I'd like to show people something I think is very useful, especially if you're not real familiar with how BLM makes decisions.
Okay. The route report one, or
the route reports, the last link, I believe.
All right, I got it here. Wow, this is a big database.
Yeah, it's a huge database. And then scroll down to about 2/3 of the way down it. Go down to like D1520 or something like that. It'll be way down.
There we go.
Yeah, any of those are probably okay.
That I will take out later. All right,
I think like 1520 is closed. It's considered to be reopened.
1520.
Yeah,
1520A here.
That's good. So this is how BLM actually surveys each of the routes, and they're usually 5 or 6 pages. So they ask the surveyor that's going out looking at these trails some questions. But if you go to the very last page of this, which is in green, that page,
yes,
alternative C, alternative D. Alternative C and alternative Ds are the ones that BLM decided that this trail could be reopened if these conditions were met. So if you could point out that these conditions have been met that were already identified in alternative C or D, it really improves the chances of that trail being reconsidered for opening. So this is kind of like a cheat sheet on what they want to hear from you.
It really is. And Loren, I don't know if you want to hear this or not, but if you are familiar with AI and you use AI in any capacity, like this Gemini has popped up here in the corner, and I'm not hawking for Google or anything, but it can help you find some of these answers if you're looking for specific pieces of information within here, or if you want some summaries of these kinds of things. But it's a great way to kind of go through this. This is awesome information. This is a ton of stuff.
Yeah, it's a really good clue. Okay. And if you go back to alternative B, a couple pages back, that'll probably tell you why they closed it. You know, what criteria they said they were going to use to close it. So these are good references. I wouldn't suggest you need to do this on every trail you report on, but if you've got a trail that's
Right.
particularly important to you that you really want to
Yeah.
do, like the 10-mile wash trail, this is a great
Mhm.
tool to make sure that your comments are bang on with what they're looking for.
Yeah. I love this one. Closing this route along with natural reclamation, which isn't supposed to be a criteria for closure, would reduce visual contrast created by the route, which I don't think is a criteria for closure either. Closing this route would contribute to retaining or restoring vegetation and soil cover, minimizing the potential for soil erosion. Closing this route reduce overall impact of vehicle use and route footprint in the area. None of that sounds legit. All right, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got off.
So this is a good tool.
See
and
what
we
happens,
made it
Lauren? I get
kinda-
into the details. I'll never get out of there. Yeah.
But you know, that's a 4,000 page report, maybe
Mhm.
5,000 pages, and we kind of broke it down into chapters with the route number, so it's easy to find what you're looking for.
Awesome.
So anyway,
Okay.
that's kind of the Moab thing. Everybody comment. Whatever you say is great. The
Yeah.
more comments on this, the better. We've really got to win.
The more comments, the better, and the more detailed the comment, the better the comment. All comments matter. Am I right, Lauren?
That's correct. That's correct.
But yeah, if you, I will link to all the stuff in the show notes specifically for this, including the route reports and the maps. Lauren's got all this in there for you guys. It makes it real easy to just kind of go in and go through, and then head over to the BRC and get your comments submitted. And yeah, we'll get these reopened here. So.
Very good.
That's awesome, buddy. I'm kind of excited about this one. Like when I saw this news come through was it right before Trail Hero? And I was just like, oh yeah, this
right
is gonna be
before.
a big one to talk about. Yeah, it was good stuff.
September
It was good
24th.
stuff. Timing was excellent.
Yeah, that's
There you
going to be
go.
a new date on my calendar as an anniversary date, September 24th, the day they announce
There you go.
Moab reopening considered.
I think we
You know,
can
there
have
is
one on that, and then we have another party in the following. Go ahead.
You know, there is one other thing I want to mention because we've got our Utah senators have introduced actually 3 bills in Congress or in the Senate right now. And one of them is available for comments, and it's the Outdoor Americans with Disabilities Act. And, you know, 40% of our population has some sort of disability. That's a huge number of people that, you know, when you know, the tree huggers, and I probably shouldn't use that word. I should probably be politically correct, right? The extreme conservationists, you know, they say
That's better. Yeah.
you've got plenty of
Yeah.
roads, you know, and the roads aren't closed. You can still
You can get there.
walk. Well, a
Yeah,
lot of
you can
people
still
can't
walk there.
walk. People can't walk.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Outdoor Americans with Disabilities Act will actually require that BLM and Forest Service for every 2.5, for every square mile of land that they have under their management, they have to have 2.5 miles of roads within that square mile. So that is the road density is pretty intense. So that will cause us to give us another tool not to lose roads. And if this gets through, this will be a bill in the Congress, and that means that it can't be changed by a future administration easily. So this is really important. If you we've got a post on it on our site. Blue Ribbon has posts on it, on action alerts on their sites. But call your members of Senate. That's only 2 people. That's only 2 people in your state. Wherever you are, call your senators and tell them you support the Outdoor Americans with Disabilities Act. It takes 2 to 3 minutes to make a support call on that.
Seriously, and let me tell you, if you've never made a call to your congressman or your senator, it's not hard. It's really not difficult. They're not going to grill you. It's not a congressional hearing or anything like that. You call up your Congress person's office and you're just like, hey, I am a constituent in whoever's district that you're calling. Here's my name, and they'll usually ask you for a name and address at least to identify who you are and that you are actually in the district. And then you say, I support this, and this is what you can, if you want to give them a quick why, you can, but simply calling them and saying, I support this law is enough for them to go to their list and go and check that off and say, this is something that one of our constituents called in. And comments on BLM things and sending your senator a letter about things like that, that makes a huge impact. But a phone call makes 10 times that impact, 20 times that impact, because they know the effort it takes to get a person off the couch or to pick up their phone and actually dial a phone call and make a phone call to a staffer. So highly encourage that. And Loren, I also say, I'm one of those people, man. I've talked about it on this show before. You know, I'm 46. I hate saying it out loud, but I'm 46, right? And I've already got terrible knees, and some of you may have seen me out there crawling around on Sand Mountain here and there. And yeah, I get those opportunities where I can, and I get some time where my body lets me do those things. Many of you don't see when I'm hobbling to and from my desk here to do this show now the week after Trail Hero, because I can't really move around anymore because I really overexerted myself doing that stuff, right? But I carry a certain level of disability that's been diagnosed by a doctor, et cetera, yada, yada. And I can't walk that far. I can't. You start closing some of these remote places and access to these remote places, that means it's done for me. It means I'll never, ever get to see it. If I have 30 more years on this planet, I'll never get a chance to see it, right? And to that point, if you have 30 more years, and I'm talking to you, dear listener or watcher of this show, if you have 30 or 40 more years on this planet, and you want to go hit that trail when you're 60 or you're 70 or you're 80 and get out to those remote places, are you going to be able to walk out to it? Because I'm going to guarantee you that you're not. And that your best way to get out there is going to be some sort of motorized access, whether it's Jeep or it's an OHV or it's an e-bike or whatever it is. Those systems and those things exist to help us, do things, whether it's to get to work or whether it's to get out in the middle of nowhere, right? And as we get older, we need those things more too. So
Yeah.
even if you're young and healthy and you're like, yeah, I can walk. Yeah.
It restores the family unit too, because a lot of grandkids want to spend time with their grandkids and they want to share the experiences that they've had in the past. And this is the only way they have to do it. They may have hiked the Grand Canyon when they were younger, but they can't do it today. So they've got to find some other alternative to be able to show their grandkids that and share that with them. So I think that's really key. I'll give you a tip that'll really help you too on that problem you mentioned earlier. I mentioned earlier there's only each state only has 2 senators, right? So when you pick up the phone and you call your senator's office, store that phone number in your phone under Senator Lee or Senator Curtis. So the next time that you need to make a call, you don't even have to look it up. You're looking at a podcast or you're looking at a social media post and you want to make a comment, you look up and you say, I want to call Congressman Celeste Malloy, and her phone number is already stored in my phone. So, I mean, literally you're getting down to that 2 minutes to make a difference.
Yeah.
And that's really where we're going.
As somebody I swear to God, Loren, this is my last thing I'm going to say, but as somebody who has done this before, regardless of what political party you ascribe yourself to, right? If you ascribe yourself to a political party, when you start and you open that conversation with you and your senator and you and your congressperson, you'll be amazed at what comes out of that. Very often, especially if you're a regular person that calls in or if you're a regular person that sends in letters, you'll find yourself getting emails specifically from those elected officials. You'll find yourself sometimes on the phone with those elected officials. When you go to, town halls and things like that, and you go, hi, my name is JD Marshall and I'm a constituent. And you're like, oh, JD Marshall with the Trailhead. Yes, I read many of your comments and read many of your letters. It creates this different dialogue, and whether or not we agree on the politics and we can talk about the policies, right? And whether or not the policies themselves make sense, and getting that conversation started by making a phone call and just saying, this is what I support. And then if your congressperson comes back to you and says, I don't support it for whatever reason, ask them why. And then try to figure out what that conversation needs to be to try to needs to be a conversation, not an argument. It needs to be a conversation. But getting that conversation started makes it all the difference.
Yep. And that's the key, is as long as you're talking, as long as you're sitting across the table from someone, and don't get frustrated because you're not talking to the senator or you're not talking to the congressperson. You're
Yeah.
talking to a staffer. The staffer is important because that's who does most of the work. And the staffer is where we get things done. We don't call Celeste Malloy. We don't call Senator Lee. We call the staffers that we have, that we talk to on a regular basis. They call us when they need help on something. You know, we do reports for, I've done reports for Congress, you know, several times in the last couple months on different topics. So they'll ask you, when they start recognize you as a credible authority, you're winning, even if they don't agree with you. And I think the last thing, and this will probably be the last thing I'd like to say, is that people shouldn't confuse politics with partisanship. Politics is very necessary for us to get anything done in our society. We have to use politics to get things done. And it's just as important to work with the people that you don't agree with as it is to work with the people you do agree with. But where you have to be careful of is you have to remain nonpartisan. And especially for an organization like UPLA, we can't show favoritism. We may prefer the politics of one particular party, but we can't be partisan about the individual selection process. Are they a Democrat or Republican? You have to stay away from that because that'll get you in trouble and it'll divide you more than you already are.
Exactly.
Partisanship and politics are two different things for us. Politics is all about winning for us. Partisanship is the evil stepchild we need to stay away from.
Well, Loren, on that note, I got nothing else, man. Like, that's the perfect way to end this guy. I feel like we've got enough then. That's awesome, buddy. All right. Well, on that note, then, I will remind everybody listening, please go check out UPLA's website. It's utahpla.com. I'm going to link specifically to the post that we're talking about for the reopening. Let's see, this is your comments needed to reopen Moab. I will link directly to that in the show notes so that anybody needs to find it. I'll also link to a couple trails and stuff that I know in the area that at least connect to stuff. And I think Trails Off Road and a couple of other places have write-ups for, at least historically have write-ups for, even though they're closed now. So you can kind of take a look. And there's all kinds of links on the UPLA page on information that you might need. And there's tons of information out there from all of us about how to write a good comment. But again, any comment will do, or any comment in support of these changes is great. And the same thing goes for the reintroduction of the Disabled Americans Act for outdoor access. All of those things are important. Just contact your representatives. I swear to you, it's much easier than you think it is. And you'll feel better when it's done because you at least told them directly how you feel about something. And for a lot of people, I think that goes, I don't think enough people understand how empowering that can be to just get that conversation out to, and to your senator, whether or not you guys agree on something or, you know, whatever it is, as long as you guys get to the same place, I think it's good. So,
yeah.
All right.
By the way, great hat. Great hat.
Thank you. Right? Like, where can one get a hat like this, Loren? I feel like this beautiful hat that I received at Trail Hero for a small donation to assist the cause. Awesome. It's a beautiful hat, man. There actually is an orange version, and I almost got that, but I'm like, I feel like the black's more on brand for me, so I'm going to stick with that. But it looks gorgeous. It's really great. So. I like yours too, buddy. That's nice. It's on the same side too, even despite what your screen tells you. Yeah. All right. Well, Loren, last chance. You anything else? You got anything else?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
All right. Well,
Great being with you again.
Thank you very much for joining us again. Thank you so much. Anytime, sir. You're welcome anytime. I'd love to talk the roadless road with you. I'll talk this stuff all day. I'm such a nerd when it comes to it. But if you're out there
Awesome.
listening, please check out the links in the show notes. And thank you guys so much for riding along with us this week and on this particular episode. Safe travels on and off the trail. As always, stay the trail, and we'll see you guys next time at the Trailhead. See you later, Loren.
This is where trails start and our stories unfold. And our stories unfold.